A few days ago I was browsing and watching YouTube videos that I came across a channel in my recommendations tab. This channel was called Nostalgic Nighthawk, and upon further investigation I came to know that this person covers old Pokemon games. Specifically, he talks about his journey through these games and what kind of progress he's been making regarding certain things within these games. I noticed that Generation 3 was the focal point of most of his videos, and I'll be honest with you, I have played Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, I've played Pokemon Omega Ruby, and I've played Pokemon Ruby Sapphire Emerald as well, although that's been around 13 or 14 years now that I've last played those games. But just seeing him play those games, the GBA graphics, him talking about those games with so much passion, it really compelled me to go and replay the original Ruby Sapphire Emerald games. Now, as you guys may know, I do like to collect Pokemon games, the mainline Pokemon games that I played as a kid or when I was growing up. I like to collect those casually, not really that seriously. But I have played Game Boy Advance games as well, Fire Red and Emerald, but I never had authentic physical copies of these games with me. So I thought, well, this is the perfect opportunity to go ahead and get myself these games and complete my collection. So I started looking online for prices for Pokemon Emerald, and I was surprised to find that a good condition Pokemon Emerald with box and manual costs around $600 to $700. I was completely flabbergasted, and I looked at my wallet to see what our fund was, and I didn't have that much of a fund to go and spend money and put $600, $700 into an old Pokemon game. I know Pokemon games appreciate in value, but $600, $700 was a little bit too steep for me. So I kept looking, and I came to know that the cardboard boxes on old Game Boy games actually costs more than the cartridge sometimes, which was really surprising to me. For example, if you just buy yourself a good condition Pokemon Emerald, that's going to cost you like $200 to $250, especially if the internal battery has been replaced. And for those of you who don't know what internal battery is, these games came with an internal battery, and that battery would keep track of time. You could do some events, you could grow berries in the game using that internal clock. Now what sucks about these internal batteries is that even if you don't play the game, over the years this battery is going to dry itself out and you're going to have to put a new one in. So it was one of those things that I actually didn't know myself before I started looking. But if you get yourself a replaced battery, Pokemon Emerald, it costs somewhere between $200 to $250 in good condition. So looking at my wallet again, I thought, well, that's still kind of expensive. So maybe I shouldn't buy it, right? Right? I bought it. This is my copy of Pokemon Emerald that I ended up buying, and it costs somewhere around that same range that I was talking about. Now, of course, I didn't get myself a box, so this game came in like a plastic casing of sorts. But I was a little bit annoyed because I like to keep all my games in box and casings. So I was wondering what I could do for this game. I started searching online again, and I came to know this one vendor that creates mini boxes of old Game Boy Advance titles. And it didn't cost much as well. It's a very reasonable price. I think it was $6.25, I believe. I might be wrong on that. I forgot. But what they sent over was this. Now, I don't have huge hands, but I do have kind of big hands. And this is how big it is, right? And it's literally a replica of the original Game Boy Advance cover, but it's just really small. And it has a plastic casing on top and a cardboard right under it. And if I open it, there's nothing in there. It's just an empty space to put your game in. But this is really helpful, right? Because it helps me put my game in there. So now I have my box. Now I have my game. So what did I do? I started playing the game. And the hope is that tonight I go through my save file and then I also review the game. Now I know what you're thinking, who does a review for a game 20 years later, right? Well, I guess I do. I don't have anything better to do. So we're gonna review this game 20 years later. It is a fan favorite, and I liked a lot of the things in this game. But there are some things that I'm gonna critique as well. And just before I even get to that part, I know some of my critiques are gonna come from a place of entitlement, because after you've played recent Pokemon games, some of the stuff that used to happen in old Pokemon games becomes a little bit cumbersome. So keep that caveat in your mind, and we're gonna go through what I liked and what I didn't like and my save file tonight in this video. Let's go. Alright, let's get started. So, I have my save file right over here, and it's a very recent save file. And you'll notice that when I load it up, I actually started Little Root Town. That's because right after I beat the champion, I just stopped, and I decided that I'll make this video afterwards. I did put a lot of thought into my team this time. I know I've shown you guys my previous save files, and in those save files usually my teams are pretty fragmented because over the years I kind of tampered with my teams and stuff. This is a fresh new team, and even though I did put thought into this team, that's not to say that the thought I put into it was good by any means, because in my opinion this is literally the worst team that you can come up with when you're playing this game. Why do I say that? Well, look at these Pokemon and then think of the fact that I actually beat the champion with this team. I have a level 44 cast form, right? Now I don't know what natures do, so I don't know what adamant nature does, to be honest. But I found this Pokemon, you get it in that weather station, and I said, well, why not? Let's train this Pokemon, right? In my mind, I had this incorrect idea that these old games were similar to the new ones. That's not the case at all. This game was incredibly difficult, but I was kind of trolling a little bit, and I decided to keep cast form with me. So I gave it Mystic Water. Actually, Mystic Water is what it came with, and stat wise it's okay. It has more attack. Everything is just evenly spread out. Nothing too amazing though, because it's level 44 and none of the stats is even at 100. And the moves I taught this guy, I actually taught him Ice Beam, what you get from the ship, the abandoned ship. I gave it Rain Dance, Weather Ball, and then Thunder. What I would do in battles is I would use the Rain Dance, and then Weather Ball would turn into a Water type move. Along with Mystic Water, its efficacy would go up by a lot. And then Thunder, if you use Rain Dance, Thunder has a 100% accuracy, so this 70% turns into 100. And then Ice Beam, just because I wanted him to deal with the Dragon types as well. I knew the Elite Four, it's going to be a problem, so I decided to give him Ice Beam. Plus there was no one else on my team that I think was a pretty worthy candidate for learning Ice Beam. I could be wrong on that. If I am, let me know in the comments. But I would say that Cast Form was the second most important Pokemon in my team when I got to the Elite Four. I know it's very surprising to hear, but this guy was the backbone of my team in many ways. Alright, moving on from Cast Form. The next one is a Slacking. I named him MeFR, and I named him when he was a Slackoth, because when I look at Slackoth, it really reminds me of myself. I don't think I'm at this point where I feel like I look and resemble Slacking. Maybe in 20 years, maybe, but at least right now I don't feel that way. But anyways, this guy was the most important member of this team. Like, I am so confident I would not have beaten this game if it wasn't for the Slacking. Slackoth was really difficult to train, but after it evolves into Vigoroth, it becomes pretty easy. And then when it becomes a Slacking, it's a piece of cake. I taught him Counter. I thought it would be a great move to know for Pokemon that are fighting type and they try to take me down. What I can do is I can use Counter on them, and it would be double the power, and knowing how much physical damage slacking does, I think it's always just gonna take them out, right? Then I also taught him strength, and I actually taught this move out of necessity due to the story of this game. But strength was actually a great middle of the road move that I could rely on if I didn't want to go all out with a hyper beam, right? Then of course hyper beam, and I actually didn't think of this when I was teaching him hyper beam. I was just thinking about the fact that hyper beam would go great with slacking, but it's actually awesome synergy because hyper beam charges the next turn, and slacking also loafs around every second turn. So technically that loafing around and the charging for the hyper beam end up taking the same turn. And then earthquake, nothing to explain there. Just a great physical move that you can teach your slacking, and he has great physical power. Now you might be confused, and I was confused too. I went to the shop, the department store, and I wanted to teach my slacking Giga Impact, right? Because that one is the physical equivalent of Hyper Beam, and I came to realize there's no such move as Giga Impact, and that really threw me off guard. And then I realized that there's a what is it called? There's like a split. So you have like some moves that are physical and some that are special. If I click on any one of these moves, you'll notice it doesn't say anything about whether a move is physical or not. And the reason for that is actually in this game, 3rd generation, they actually didn't introduce that idea. Some Pokemon types are physical by default, some are special by default. So for example, electric type is special. But if I use something like Thunder Punch, it says Thunder Punch, so technically it should be a physical move, right? No. The game interprets that as a special attack just because it's an electric type move, and all electric type moves are gonna be special. The same is true for physical. So any physical move you use any normal type move you use is a physical, right? So technically Hyper Beam is also a physical attack. And since slacking has really, really high physical attack, Hyper Beam is a menace, right? So that's my long-winded explanation of why I taught him Hyper Beam. If you're curious about his stats, I don't know if I can show his stats somehow. Is there a way to show his stats? I am not sure. Oh yeah, there is. 184 points in attack, 136 in speed. Now I'll be honest, towards the end of the Elite Four and Champion battle, what I would do is I would bring in slacking, I would use a Hyper Beam. This guy was so clutch in so many moments. He would just take out that Pokemon. Usually whatever Pokemon comes in next from the opponent can't clean him up. So he would survive the hit, and then I would use another Hyper Beam, and if he faints, then bring him back with a Revive and do the same thing again. This guy was like my Gallic gun, just going crazy. And also I gave him a Sylph Scarf. So what a Sylph Scarf does is it powers up any move that's a normal type. So Hyper Beam hits even harder. So if I use Hyper Beam, it gets a bonus because slacking is a normal type, and I'm using a normal type move. Then there's another bonus on top of that using Silk Scarf because it powers up normal type moves. And then the insane 184 attack also kicks in. So there were so many Pokemon that I thought I would not be able to KO using a Hyper Beam from full health, and I was able to do it just fine. Like this guy was level 47, 48, and I knocked out a level 54 Flygon on the Elite Four from full health using a Hyper Beam. MVP hands down. Now let me introduce you the Pokemon that were completely useless. Actually, this one was not useless, surprisingly. Ludicolo. I named him Ludicola. I think it's a clever play on the name. I would like to have some Ludicola. Anyways, I gave him a Miracle Seed. The stats are pretty evenly distributed. across the board. Of course, the special attack is the most increased stat. And this guy was I taught him Surf, Dive, Waterfall, and Giga Drain. I know he was pretty much an HM slave for me, but he was surprisingly useful, very resourceful, and his typing really helps. Grass and water type being both is really helpful. There's very few poison type Pokemon you run into. And he's okay against ice. He's pretty good against ground type. Even against fire, he's okay. And he was buying me enough turns where I could revive my Pokemon, and sometimes he would come in clutch as well against water types. So I would say this was the third most important Pokemon on my team. But as you can see, just level 43, the levels are really, really low. Now this is where we get into Pokemon that were absolutely useless. Blaziken. He's Blaziken, so I named him Ken, because it was a male Torchic. I think Ken goes pretty nicely with that. I taught him Blaze Kick, Brick Break, Cut, and Overheat. I would say it's kind of not this Blaziken's fault that he was useless. I think Pokemon Emerald is actually a little bit it's more favorable to have a grass type starter, I think, in Pokemon Emerald than it is in Ruby Sapphire. And the reason I say that is because I just felt like this guy was never relevant. What I mean by that is there's big sections of water, right? You guys remember the famous IGN 7.8 out of 10 for Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and they said there's too much water. Well, there's a lot of water in this game, and when you're in the water, it's not preferable to use a Pokemon like Blaziken. I'm sure there are like moves that you can teach Blaziken that can bypass the water type disadvantage, but I'm just a casual, so I couldn't think of any way of taking care of that. So he ended up kind of just being in the party, just not doing much whatsoever. He was not that useful in any of the gyms either. Elite Four, he was certainly absolutely useless. I could not do anything with this guy. Even against the third one, which was supposedly an ice type, I could not do anything. All of them knew Surf, so even if I bring him out, all the Pokemon were either part water type, so even fire type moves would not be super effective, and then the next turn they would just use Surf and I would get tossed away. So I would show up on the shore afterwards using Surf. Just level 43. I can show his stats if you're interested. I gave him Charcoal. It powers up fire type moves. 118 attack, 114 special attack, 92 speed. Absolutely useless. After a certain point, I had no idea what to do with this guy, and I was thinking maybe I should have picked Trico, sorry. But yeah. Now there are other Pokemon that are actually even more useless than the Blaziken, if you believe it or not. I'm sure you can tell where I'm going with this. So first I would like to apologize to my Swellow, who I named Swelly, and I'll introduce you guys to him later. But I had a Tailo on my team. He was doing great. I taught him Steel Wing, Wing Attack, Endeavor, Quick Attack. Everything was going great. But then this absolutely cursed thought came to my mind. Why don't I catch myself a Bagon? So I looked online on where you can find Bagon, and they said, well, if you get the 8th gym badge, then you can go catch it. I said, cool. A pseudo legendary? Why not? I want one. So I beat the 8th gym. My team is on its last rights, right? Because everybody is just reaching their peak and they're plateauing a little bit. So I say, okay, perfect time to go get myself a Bagon. I caught that Bagon, and it never got to level 50. I did have 6 rare candies on me. If I wanted to, I could have evolved him after the second Elite Four battle. But by that point, my slacking was doing so much for me that I felt like it would be a crime if I don't give all those 6 rare candies to my slacking, because he earned it. If you watched my battle, if you were there to watch the battles, like that slacking earned those 6 rare candies, and this guy was just kind of there with the. You can see what I gave him, the XP share, just kind of there doing absolutely nothing. Didn't contribute in any way whatsoever. So I ended up giving them to all the rare candies to slacking, which is why slacking is actually really high level, 51. So that's kind of the story on this guy. He was called Bagon, so I called him Begone, which ended up being kind of an ironic name because I was so done with this guy. I just wanted him to be gone from my team. So I guess I kind of foreshadowed how my relationship with this Shelgon would go, I suppose. As far as moves are concerned, pretty cookie cutter standard. Headbutt, Dragon Claw, Ember, Dragon Breath. I had no idea what to do with this guy, honestly. Completely and utterly useless. But the benefit I had of using him is that he would buy me some turns. Except for the Dragon type fight in the Elite Four. He got me some turns to where I was reviving my Pokemon. Now, if you want to meet the absolute useless Pokemon in my team, let's see if you can make a guess first. Make a guess in your mind, and then I'm going to show you my absolutely useless Pokemon next. 3, 2, 1. Yep, I'm sure you're surprised. Or maybe you're not, I don't know. But this guy was absolutely, completely useless. I had no idea what to do with this guy. Look at his level 42. And that's not because I didn't want to train him. I tried literally my best to train this guy, but I just didn't know what to do with this Pokemon. I gave him a King's Rock, and stat-wise, very high defense, pretty middle of the road attack, pretty middle, subpar speed. Now you might be saying, well, he has great defense, so why not just use him as a tank? And if you notice what I named this guy, I named him Tank Inc., right? And actually it was a play on the name, because if you say it quickly, it sounds like you're saying tanking, right? Like he's tanking something, tanking. But he was anything but a tank. See, it's not good to be a tank only when someone is using moves that are not very effective, because every Pokemon can tank that. The whole problem with this Pokemon was actually because of that whole thing I mentioned of some Pokemon types are just classified as physical and some are classified as special. He's very weak to water type and grass type, right? Look at his special defense, 69. I didn't do this on purpose, but nice. But he has 69 special defense. Water and grass both are classified as special attacks. So whenever a grass type Pokemon hits him with a move, or a water type, and this game in its entirety is filled with water types, it doesn't go towards his defense, it goes towards his special defense, and he has terrible special defense. So he can't tank anything. His weaknesses just completely take him out. And the things that he can, like for example ground type and fighting type, those are 4 times effective. So who cares if his defense is 190, if it's 4x if it's 4x or 4 times effective? It doesn't really matter. Essentially, I kind of realized at some point that this guy just does not is just not viable. Like, I don't know what to do with this guy. His learn set is absolutely terrible. For some reason, in the Elite Four battle, I was literally begging this guy to hit 1 Iron Tail, and I think I missed twice in a row, and then I brought him back with a revive, and I did it 2 more times, and he missed it those 2 times as well. Every time I would ask him to do a Rock Tomb, always a miss. Like, I didn't know what to do with this guy. At a certain point, I think one of the Elite Four battles, I didn't even bother reviving him for this because he was just doing nothing. And I'm not sure if I did something wrong, because I love Aggron so much. I love Mega Aggron, I love Aggron, but I was just completely lost, not sure what to do. But this was my team, and I know it's hard to believe that I won with this uh, absolutely, I don't want to be too mean, but just completely clueless and directionless team. But I think the credit goes to this slacking, because this guy really showed up, like really did. But anyways, that's my team for the most part. And let's critique this game. What did I like about this game? What did I not like about this game, right? So, as far as what I really liked about this game, I would say that the choices of Pokemon they gave you in this game from the very start of the adventure, there's so many. Like, everybody has different Pokemon that they like, but then there's like Pokemon that everybody likes, right? That you look at and you go, ooh, I want that one. There are so many that kind of Pokemon in this game. Let's look from the start, right? You start your journey, you see a Lotad. A lot of people love Ludicolo, so Ludicolo is one. You see a Poochyena that turns into a Mightyena. Mightyena is also, it's popular, not crazy popular, but kind of popular. You continue. Zangoose is another one. People really love Zangoose a lot. If you keep going, you see a Shroomish, which is awesome. You see a Ralts, that is awesome. You see a Slackot, another one. You see a Talo as well. Talo is another one. If you keep going, you'll see a Numel. Numel's great. And what else? I'm forgetting some Pokemon. But there's so many options you have in this game. I was just arriving at Petalburg, at Petalburg City, and I realized that I already had like 4 or 5 Pokemon in my team. You can catch yourself a Makuhita that turns into a Hariyama. Hariyama is very good. Like, this is one of the regrets I have in this game, is instead of the Aggron, maybe I should have kept a Hariyama in my team. But yeah, you can get yourself a Hariyama. Then there's Aaron, like, that becomes into Aggron. Not very good, at least from my experience, but still a pretty cool Pokemon to have. So you have so many options that you can go for. So the variety of Pokemon that you can get is awesome. Now, there's the other facet of this too, which is the difficulty, right? I think the difficulty in this game was perfect.
You're either perfect or you're not me.
Like, I was consistently on my toes, just completely in the corner. Like, there was no point in the game where I was feeling comfortable with where my team was. I was always underleveled compared to the gym leaders. No matter how much you train, you always end up being underleveled. And the strongest Pokemon on the gym leaders team always felt like a threat. This Flannery is if you challenge Flannery, she has a Torkoal at the end, and that Torkoal was an absolute menace. He used Overheat. I was like, aha, you used Overheat, now your special attack is down, so next Overheat's gonna be weak. But it turns out the Torkoal has a White Herb, and thanks to the White Herb, it heals back up, and the status effect is gone. So there's just these small things with regards to difficulty that I thought was absolutely amazing. And even the Elite Four battle and everything, it's challenging, but it's not impossible at any point. So I really enjoyed that as well. What I didn't like is it really felt like they were trying to make the game seem harder on purpose. Like, they were trying too hard to make it seem difficult. And a good example of that actually is a great example of that actually is in how they deal with normal trainers. When you fight normal trainers, what the normal trainers sometimes do is they use hyper potions and they use repel and stuff like that, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, why would a normal trainer have these things on them? Like, you can say, okay, they're trying to make battles tough, but has anyone ever lost a battle to a random trainer? I think a lot of people go through the routes to train and get their Pokemon stronger. Nobody expects a random trainer with a level 25, maybe Zangoose, to have a hyper potion, right? It just doesn't make any sense, and I think it's unnecessarily draws out the battle. And speaking of drawing out the battles, I have to say another thing that really upset me a lot is how they had a lot of stall moves on so many Pokemon that you fight. Every other Pokemon you fight is either going to use a Confuse Ray on you, it's going to use, Paralyze on you, it's going to put you to sleep. Like, it's going to spam Protect. For some reason, Protect works twice in a row for some reason. Just unnecessary stall, right? Which doesn't make any sense. It's just wasting turns for no reason. And since I had a Slacking on my team, it was actually worse. Because I would use a move, they would use Detect, then I would be loafing around, and then the next turn I would have to pray that the AI is kind of stupid and it doesn't use Detect again. But that's another part of it that I thought, like, just this unnecessarily adding in things that don't really add much meaning or difficulty to the game by any means. That's the other thing that I quite didn't enjoy. Oh yeah, and then there's one more thing that I just remembered. There's this move called Swagger. A lot of the Pokemon know this move called Swagger, and it confuses you but increases your attack. Now, if a gym leader uses this, I don't mind, because a gym battle is a serious one. But if a random trainer between routes is spamming this move, right? If every other trainer, I don't mind a few trainers having this, but if every other trainer is using this on you between routes, it just unnecessarily delays the battle and serves no purpose. There's other examples of this too, like there's Sand Slashes and other Pokemon that are just spamming Sand Attack on you for no reason. There's some that are using double teams, spamming double teams. There's some spamming smoke screens. And I get that, you're gonna say, well, you should teach your Pokemon moves like Aerial Ace and other stuff that doesn't miss. I get that, I understand that. But I would expect something like this to occur from gym leaders and other stuff. I don't want random trainers to be using moves like this when the game knows, the developers of the game also know that you're gonna win this battle no matter what, because you're between routes, you're just trying to train your Pokemon. But these added extra turns and the amount of time you spend, it's technically just wasting your time. I know the illusion it gives is that the game is hard, but in reality it's just a waste of time. It's not making the game hard by any means at all. The real difficulty in the game, actually, they've done a great job with it, but that's not what adds difficulty. That's just annoyances that appear in the game. But let's counter that with something good, right? Another good thing that I like about this game, bouncing off of the bad stuff, is some of the extra stuff that they added. Like there's that Trickmaster's house. That house is really great. I think they've done a pretty good job with the whole Trickmaster stuff. I think they did a very good job with the tying of the story together between and Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza. I think they did very good with that. I have some gripes with that as well, actually. I think they executed it well, but I really felt so disconnected from what was going on. Like, oh, just go to Team Magma's hideout. Groudon woke up and it just disappeared. Oh, let's go to Seashore Cavern. Oh, look, Kyogre woke up and Kyogre disappeared. Let's go to Sutapolis City. We go there. Oh, these guys are fighting. Let's go to Sky Pillar. Oh, Rayquaza woke up. Rayquaza flew away again. Let's go back and then see that cutscene that they worked probably pretty hard on and looks pretty awesome, if I'm being honest. And then everybody goes home, and that's the end of the Legendary Saga. I just kind of felt like it was, as a trainer, if you think of yourself as the trainer in game, I just felt like I was watching a TV show myself. What they could have done is maybe when you wake up Groudon, you can fight it and try to give it that twist of you're fighting for your survival, because Groudon has a lot of unstable energy, and you manage to fend him off, and then he leaves, right? Not necessarily you can't really catch him or anything, but you just defend yourself. But you get to battle Groudon, and do the same thing with Kyogre. And if you don't want to do it with Rayquaza, that's okay. But just doing those two things is gonna make the player feel like they're involved with what's going on. Otherwise, it just kind of feels like you're going from a place to place, right? If I'm being honest, my real concern was actually finding out where the Team Magma hideout was and where Seashore Cavern was. That was hard to find. That was what I was concerned about. All the other stuff was just kind of, yeah, sure, it happened. They tied up the story very nicely, but I feel like the execution was not exactly there, in my opinion. And then I think another thing that they could have done is at the end, when Rayquaza kind of disappears, maybe give some sort of a hint that, like Rayquaza is eyeing you up, or Rayquaza is waiting for you at the sky pillar or something. He just kind of gets up and leaves. I was like, wait, that's it? And then I looked online and people said, oh, you can go catch him now, which I had no idea you could do it, especially because I know in Ruby and Sapphire you do it after beating the game. It's post-game content. I didn't know I could go and catch him. I never did, but it would have been nice to have something like that too. There's actually one more thing that I'm going to talk about with regards to Pokemon and their moves. But just so you know, these things that I'm complaining about, as I said in the first part as well, these come from a lot of present, like a modern look back on the old Pokemon game. It's not to say that it's not really a look back based on if you were playing this game at the time. I think these things are not that big of a problem, and I think if you were playing these games around that time, I don't think you would even be thinking of what I'm thinking of right now. But anyways, let's talk about something more interesting than that. Let's talk about movesets. So you have these insane amount of HMs, and actually this point I'm going to make is also very much set in time. It's a complaint I can make now, but I don't think anybody was going to make this complaint in the past. Look at the number of HMs you can learn. You can learn Cut, Fly, Surf, Strength, Flash, Rock Smash, Waterfall, Dive. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I refuse to make my Pokemon learn Flash. This is the most, the most egregious HM you can teach your Pokemon. I taught it to my Lombre, and then I made the move deleter delete it. And when I got to Victory Road, I didn't have Flash on me. And I literally watched a YouTube video to go through the Victory Road because I didn't want to teach my Pokemon this absolutely awful move. I'm so glad HMs are not a thing anymore, because if there's only a few, then there's strategy involved. But if there's this many, it's just too much. You just don't have any creative freedom over your team because you're always thinking about who's going to learn what. And I was thinking about that the whole time. But I'm not done talking about the moves, because there's actually something else that's really interesting as well. See what I'm talking about here is the progression of moves. If you look at the moves that these Pokemon learn, and you don't take a look at any TMs or HMs that you can teach to these Pokemon, let's take some examples, right? So I have with me my Torchic. Torchic learns Scratch, Ember, and then when it evolves into Combuskin, it learns Double Kick. Double Kick is awesome. It really gets you through a lot of the middle levels until you get to around level 28, 29, 30. That's when you're like, okay, now give me something else. And the reality is there really is nothing else that this guy learns that is meaningful damage wise. You still have Ember when you're evolving into Blaziken. Just think of that. An Ember on Blaziken at level 36. and a double kick, which at that point is definitely past due, and you have cut or scratch. And I think you learn blaze kick right after you evolve, so you technically have a level 35 combuskin with ember. Compare that with the future games, right? Let's compare it just one generation later. In Gen 4, you get yourself a Chimchar, right? The Chimchar learns Scratch, it learns Ember, and then as soon as he becomes level 14, he learns Mach Punch. It has Monferno. It's great. It gets you through the teen levels, like the 14s to 20, right? Then after you're somewhere in the middle of 20s and you're like, geez, I really want to learn a move that's a little bit stronger. Out comes Flame Wheel. Your Monferno learns Flame Wheel. That's a substitute for Ember. It really gets you through the middle levels. Now you get to level 36 and you're like, geez, man, Mach Punch is not doing it for me anymore. And immediately you evolve into Infernape and you learn Close Combat, right? So Close Combat, level 36, the perfect fighting type move. You can have the apex move, right? But then you start thinking, well, I still have Flame Wheel, right? What do I do about this? Well, Infernape ends up learning in his 40s, he learns Flare Blitz, which is the absolute apex fighting type physical move that you can, fire type physical move that you can learn. And if you're not happy with that, you can learn yourself Fire Blast, or you can learn yourself Flamethrower if your Infernape is more of a special attack kind of Pokemon, if you've trained him that way. See, this is what I'm talking about with the progression of moves. A lot of the Pokemon that I noticed here don't have that progression. It's really weird. Like, I was forced to use HMs and TMs to compromise and make up for that. I don't know if it's a design choice by the developers, but I was very surprised when I had a level 33 Vigoroth and all he knew was Scratch, Fury Swipes, Yawn, and Slack Off. At level 32, he should know something more than that. So I was forced to teach him Strength, the HM, because otherwise I didn't have anything. Same goes for my Ludicolo. He had the same problem. He's advertised as a water and a grass type, right? But I was working with Absorb until level 34 or 35. And the only reason I got rid of Absorb is because I found Giga Drain as a technical machine move. He didn't learn anything water type whatsoever, so I was forced to teach him Surf, which compensates for his water type. As far as I can remember, the moves that this guy learned was Scratch, Absorb, Fake Out, Feint, I think. Feint Attack, sorry. No, it wasn't Feint Attack, it was Thief, I think. Fury Swipes, yes. Just completely like introductory moves that you would expect a Pokemon between level 22 to 23 should have. But this guy had these at level 35, 36. It was very laughable to use Absorb at level 36 with a 20 power on Pokemon, and it would do nothing. But then there were others that had a very good progression as well, like this Tailo had pretty good progression. It learned Wing Attack, it learned Quick Attack, it learned Tackle. Then afterwards, I taught him Steel Wing, but even if I don't teach him Steel Wing, right, he learns Endeavor afterwards, which is a great move, very good move actually. So he had a great progression of moves. But then there's others that are just completely out there. So even though what I want to say ultimately to wrap up this point is, even though I was complaining about HMs, there being so many HMs, it ends up being something good in the long term, because if you don't have those HMs, most of these Pokemon are really suffering. I really don't know how you can train yourself a Vigoroth without Strength. I don't know how you keep a Lombre on your team without using Surf. I really don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm being honest on those two things. On the other ones, I'm not sure. I mean, dive and waterfall, I don't know what if they're helpful or not. But those two are really critical. So that's kind of my point on that one as well. I know the negatives ended up being a lot more than the positives, but that's because the positives are what you would expect. I mean, the game runs very well. Difficulties perfect. I had a lot of fun with it. Challenging but doable at the same time. The Pokemon choices are great as well. But the complaints I made are, I think, irrelevant, especially if you go back and play this game right now. If you were playing this game back in the day, I think you would give this a 10 out of 10. I think if you were playing this game from a nostalgia perspective, sitting today, like I am, I think you would give it a 9.5 out of 10, because the stuff that's annoying is annoying, but it's not annoying enough where it takes away from the experience of the game. I think if you grade this game from a modern current day looking back at this game today, I think I would probably give it an 8.5 out of 10. But if, as I said, if I were to play it back in the day, I would probably give it a 10 out of 10. So that's my rating on this game. Ultimately, music can't go wrong with all those trumpets. I love those trumpets. Pokemon Emerald definitely lives up to its hype. Quite fun, and I didn't run into any shiny Pokemon in this game as well. So this marks successfully, how many years has it been? 16 years or so now that I've never run into a shiny Pokemon at all. So there you go, a little bit of stat for you. But if you enjoyed this video, do let me know, and if you think I got something wrong, or if you don't agree with some of the things I've said, then do let me know. I would actually like to hear that from you guys. But yeah, that's about it. Next comes Fire Red, maybe. I'm not sure what comes next, but I would like to have a copy of Fire Red on me too. But this about wraps up this review. Let's put this game back into the box, because I really want to show the box to you guys as well. So let's put this in the box. Okay, this closes from here. Then we pull out the game. Oh, it's really not coming out that easily. There we go. I thought maybe I was doing something wrong. Okay, this right here is the casing I was referencing a little bit earlier. Let me change the lights a little bit. There we go. And this right here is the game, actually. Let me see if I can show this. There we go. This right here is the game. It was actually kind of hard to find an authentic copy, but I think it is authentic. I did take a look at the motherboard and stuff, so I think it is fine. So we take this and we open this up. $10,000 years later. Come on, open up. What is going on? There we go. There we go. It opened. Finally it opened. Finally it opened. So I take this game right here. Pokemon Emerald goes right here. No, it doesn't go here. It goes here. Great. Alright, and then we get ourselves the box, right? Let me see if I can change the lighting to here, maybe. Yeah, that works. So here's the box, and then we open up the box. And like I said, there's really nothing inside of the box. It's just an empty space, but you take the game because it's completed, and you just throw it in there. Actually, there we go. I was a little bit nervous because I actually never put this in this box yet, so it seems like it fits. Now we just close it like that, and there I have my Pokemon Emerald copy of the game, all completed 100%. I'm just joking, it's not 100% completed, but pretty good. I hope you enjoyed the video.